Something is already moving for you, Pisces. Not in the loud and obvious way that gets everyone's attention, not in the kind of shift that appears on the surface of life before it has taken root underneath. This is the quieter, more powerful kind of movement, the kind that happens in the deep water where you live, where your truest experiences unfold, where your most important transformations have always taken place. Over the next 7 days, you are going to begin to feel things change. Some of it will be subtle. Some of it will surprise you. Some of it will confirm what you have already been sensing for longer than you want to admit. And all of it, every single one of these shifts, is pointing in the same direction. Toward a version of your life that is more honest, more nourishing, and more aligned with the person you have always known you were meant to be. Pisces, you are a water sign, ruled by Neptune, the planet of dreams, intuition, and the invisible world. You carry within you a sensitivity that most people will never fully understand. You absorb the emotions of the people around you the way a sponge absorbs water. You feel the energy of a room before you have spoken a word to anyone in it. You know things before they happen. You carry the griefs of others alongside your own. And because of all of that, you sometimes become so saturated with the experience of others that you lose track of your own experience. You stop being able to feel where you end and other people begin. And in that saturation, life can start to feel foggy, heavy, and unclear. But something is clearing now. Over the next 7 days, these 11 shifts are going to begin moving through your life. Some will be internal, felt in the body or in the quality of your thoughts and emotions. Some will show up in your external world, in your relationships, your work, your environment, your opportunities. Watch for them. They are real. They are meaningful. And they are yours. Shift 1. A heaviness you have been carrying will begin to lift. There is something you have been holding for too long. You may not even be fully aware of how much it weighs anymore, because you have been carrying it for so long that it has simply become part of the landscape of your daily experience. A grief, a worry, a wound that never fully healed, a disappointment you swallowed instead of processing, a loss you kept moving past because stopping to really feel it felt too dangerous. Whatever it is, it has been adding weight to every single day. And in the next 7 days, something is going to begin to loosen. This lifting will not necessarily feel like relief at first. For Pisces, the release of something long held can feel strange, even disorienting. When you have been carrying something for a long time, putting it down can feel like losing a familiar companion, even an unwanted one. You may feel emotions rising that you had kept below the surface. You may cry without an obvious reason. You may feel a sudden tiredness that seems disproportionate to what you have been doing. All of this is part of the lifting. It is the weight moving through you on its way out. Let it move. Do not reach for distractions when the feelings come up. Do not try to explain them away or convince yourself that you should not be feeling this. Pisces has a deep emotional intelligence that processes grief and release in its own way, on its own timeline. Trust that what is rising now is rising for a reason. It is ready to leave. You have worked through enough of it, unconsciously perhaps, through dreams and conversations and moments of quiet, that it is finally ready to be set down. By the end of this week, you will notice something different about the way you wake up in the morning. The first moments of consciousness will feel slightly lighter. Not dramatically so, but there will be a quality to the air of your day that feels less burdened than it has in a long time. That is the shift. That is the heaviness beginning to lift. Receive it without surprise because you have earned it. You have done the inner work, even when you did not realize that is what you were doing. And now the result of that work is beginning to arrive. Shift 2. Your sense of what you want will become clearer. Pisces can struggle with knowing what they want. This is not a flaw. It is a natural consequence of being someone who feels everything and everyone so deeply. When you are constantly absorbing the desires and preferences and needs of the people around you, it becomes difficult to distinguish which wants are yours and which ones have been absorbed from others. You may find yourself going along with things not because you truly want them, but because you are tuned in to what someone else wants and it feels easier to align with their direction than to excavate your own. Over the next 7 days, there is a shift happening in your sense of personal direction. A clarity is beginning to form around what you actually want for your own life. It will not arrive as a full blueprint. It will not feel like a sudden and complete revelation. It will be more like a beam of light appearing through a gap in the clouds. A moment where you know without ambiguity that you want this and not that. where a choice becomes obvious because something inside you has finally decided to stop deferring to everyone else. Pay attention to the moments this week when something feels undeniably right. When you look at an option and your body says yes without hesitation. When you imagine a particular future and something inside you settles instead of tightening. These are not small moments. For Pisces, the clarity of your own desire is one of the most powerful navigational tools you have. When you can feel it cleanly, without the noise of other people's expectations layered over it, you can move toward it with a precision and a grace that is extraordinary. Write down what becomes clear. Keep a running list in your phone or in a notebook. This week's clarity is the foundation for the decisions you are going to be asked to make in the coming weeks and months. Do not let it slip away because you failed to anchor it. What you want matters. It has always mattered. Let this week be the one where you finally start acting like it does. If what you are hearing feels accurate, know that it could happen if you applied this energy consistently for 21 consecutive days. That is the 21-day challenge pinned at the top of this channel. It is built around daily guidance, focused direction, and real momentum. If you are tired of staying in the same cycle, that structure is exactly what has been missing. Shift 3. The energy around a specific relationship will change. There is a relationship in your life right now that is not the same as it was. You may have been pretending not to notice because noticing would require you to do something, to say something, to make a decision you have been avoiding. But this week, avoiding it is going to become harder. The energy between you and this person is going to become more pronounced, more visible, impossible to keep pretending is not there. This shift could go in two very different directions depending on the relationship and where it has been. In some cases, this shift will feel like a beautiful reopening. A connection that had gone cool or distant will begin to warm again. Words that needed to be spoken will finally find their way into the air. A misunderstanding will begin to dissolve. A door that had been closed will open just enough to let in the light. If this is the situation you are in, this week is a gift. Lean into it. Have the conversation. Take the first step. Pisces at their best is capable of love so genuine and so healing that it can restore what seemed broken beyond repair. In other cases, this shift will feel more like an uncomfortable clarity. You will see something in a relationship that you have been softening or excusing, and you will not be able to soften it anymore. You will feel the imbalance more keenly. You will sense the places where you have been giving what is not being returned. And you will feel the beginning of a reckoning. Not a dramatic confrontation necessarily, but an internal settling into a truth that can no longer be avoided. Either way, what is happening in this relationship this week is serving you. Even the uncomfortable version of this shift is in your interest. Because a relationship that is not working in your favor, that is draining your energy and not nourishing your spirit, is not neutral. It is actively costing you something that you cannot afford to keep giving. And the universe is showing it to you clearly now because you are ready to see it. Whatever this relationship shift brings, meet it with honesty. That is the only response that will move things in the right direction. Shift 4. Old patterns of people-pleasing will start to break down. Pisces is one of the signs most prone to people-pleasing. Comes from a good place. It comes from your genuine care for others, your empathy, your desire to make the people you love comfortable and happy. But somewhere along the way, for many Pisces, the generous impulse to care for others became a habit of overriding your own needs to avoid conflict or disapproval. You learned that keeping others happy kept the peace. That making yourself small made you easier to love. That your discomfort was less important than someone else's comfort. Over the next 7 days, something in this pattern is going to feel different. There will be a moment, or perhaps several moments, where the old automatic response will start to form, where you will begin to say yes when you mean no, where you will begin to shrink yourself to accommodate someone else, and something will stop you. Not dramatically, not with a grand declaration, just a quiet pause. A moment where you feel the familiar pull and instead of following it, you hesitate. You check in with yourself. You give your own feelings a beat of attention before automatically arranging your behavior around someone else's. That pause is everything. That pause is the beginning of a new relationship with yourself. Because people-pleasing is not a character flaw. It is a learned response. And what is learned can be unlearned. Not all at once, not without some difficulty, but in exactly the way the shift is beginning, one conscious pause at a time. Each time you take that beat, each time you ask yourself what you actually want before automatically adjusting to what someone else wants, You are rewriting a pattern that has been limiting your life for years. This week, practice the pause. When someone asks something of you that triggers that automatic yes, wait 3 breaths before you respond. Check in. What do you actually feel about this? What would you choose if no one was watching? What would you say if you were not worried about how they would react? You do not have to act on every answer, but you have to know the answer first. Because you cannot build a life that truly fits you if you have never allowed yourself to know what that life would actually look like. Shift 5. A creative or spiritual practice will reconnect you to yourself. For Pisces, there is no separation between the creative and the spiritual. Both are expressions of the same deep inner life, the same connection to the invisible world, the same capacity to perceive what is beyond the ordinary surface of things. When you are connected to a practice that honors this, whether it is making art, writing, meditating, praying, spending time in nature, listening to music, dancing, gardening, or simply sitting in silence with your own thoughts, you are a different person. More centered, more clear, more yourself. Over the next 7 days, a creative or spiritual practice is going to become more important to you in a way you will feel clearly. You may return to something you abandoned. You may be drawn to something entirely new. You may find that a practice you have been going through the motions of suddenly becomes alive again, carrying a charge it has not had in a long time. Whatever form it takes, this reconnection is not a luxury. It is a necessity for what you are going through right now. If this message is resonating with your sign right now, trust that it is not a coincidence. When the universe wants to speak to you, it sends exactly the right signal at exactly the right moment. And you are here because you needed to hear this today. Your support, whether as a subscriber or as a member of this community, is what keeps these messages alive. The ones that touch hearts, awaken minds, and transform lives. If this video has been making sense to you, drop in the comments the day you were born. Let us keep going. Shift 6. Your financial awareness will sharpen. Pisces is not typically known for being detail-oriented about money. Your gifts lie in the realm of feeling, imagination, and intuition rather than spreadsheets and budgets. And because money often represents the very concrete, practical dimensions of life that Pisces can find draining to focus on, it is not unusual for Pisces to have a somewhat fuzzy relationship with their financial reality. You may know roughly where things stand but prefer not to look too closely. You may handle crises when they arise but avoid proactive engagement with money as a practice. Over the next 7 days, something is going to draw your attention to your finances in a way that feels more urgent and more possible than it has before. Not in a way that triggers anxiety, but in a way that feels strangely clarifying. You may look at your accounts and feel a new determination to understand where things actually stand. You may have a conversation that gives you useful information about an opportunity or a problem. You may find yourself making a small but meaningful decision about how you are spending or saving that represents a real departure from your usual pattern. This shift in financial awareness is directly connected to the larger turning point in your life, because the life you are stepping toward requires a more grounded relationship with your material reality. Not a relationship built on worry or scarcity thinking, but one built on honest understanding. When Pisces knows clearly where they stand financially, they can make better choices about where to invest their energy, their time, and their resources. Clarity is power. Even uncomfortable clarity is better than comfortable fog. Take one small concrete step this week when it comes to your finances. Look at the numbers. Make the call. Read the document you have been putting off. It does not have to be a major overhaul. Just one honest, clear-eyed step in the direction of understanding. That one step will create momentum that continues well beyond this week. Shift 7. You will feel the urge to make something real. Pisces lives in the world of potential. You have ideas that most people would not dare to dream. You can envision futures, solutions, creations, and connections that others simply cannot see. But the real challenge for Pisces, is the distance between vision and manifestation, between what lives vividly in your imagination and what actually exists in the physical world. You have started more things in your mind than most people have started in their hands, and sometimes that gap between the imagined and the real can become a source of quiet grief. Over the next 7 days, you are going to feel a strong urge to close that gap, to take something that has been living in your head or your heart and begin to give it form in the real world. This may be a project you have been thinking about for months or years. It may be a conversation you have been composing in your mind but not yet having. It may be a step toward a goal that has felt too far away to actually walk toward. Whatever it is, the urge to make it real is going to arrive with more insistence than usual. Do not wait for the perfect moment. There is no perfect moment for Pisces, because the Pisces mind will always find one more thing that needs to be refined, one more question that needs to be answered, one more preparation that needs to be made before you feel ready. The readiness you are waiting for does not come before you begin. Comes from beginning. Take the first concrete step this week. Write the first paragraph. Send the first email. Make the first appointment. Do one visible, tangible thing that did not exist before you did it. That act of creation is the bridge between the world you imagine and the world you are going to inhabit. Shift 8. Boundaries you have been afraid to set will start to feel necessary. Pisces and boundaries have a complicated history. For a sign that absorbs so much from the world around you, that feels the pain of others as your own, that wants so badly to maintain harmony and connection, the act of setting a limit can feel like a radical and even dangerous thing. You worry that boundaries will be perceived as rejection, that they will hurt people you love, that they will create distance where you want closeness, and so you avoid them. You tolerate things you should not tolerate. You accept behavior that diminishes you. You keep the peace at the cost of your own well-being. Over the next 7 days, something is going to make this cost undeniable. There will be a situation, probably with someone specific in mind, where you will feel with absolute clarity that a line needs to be drawn. Not because you are angry or because you want to push the person away, but because continuing without that line is genuinely unsustainable. Your well-being, your energy, your ability to show up as your best self, all of it is at stake. Setting a boundary is not an act of aggression. It is an act of honesty. It is saying, I care about this relationship enough to tell you the truth about what I can and cannot give, what I can and cannot accept. People who love you will respect your limits. People who do not respect them are showing you something important about where they stand. Either way, the truth is better than the performance of unlimited availability that you have been giving. This week, identify the boundary that is asking to be set. You do not have to announce it dramatically. You do not have to have a big conversation if that does not feel right. You can simply begin living it. Stop answering messages after a certain time. Stop participating in conversations that drain you. Stop agreeing to things your body says no to. The boundary starts in your own behavior first. And then, when it is necessary, it becomes a conversation. Trust that your relationships that are meant to survive your boundaries will. And trust that the ones that are not meant to survive them were not truly serving you. Shift 9. Something you have been waiting for will send a sign. You have been waiting for something. Perhaps consciously, perhaps in the background of your daily life where wishes live alongside obligations. A reunion, a resolution, a recognition, an opportunity, an answer to a question you have been holding, a response from the universe to a prayer you sent up a while ago and then tried to let go of. You have done your best not to cling to it. You have tried to trust the timing, but the waiting has been real and it has taken something from you. Over the next 7 days, something connected to what you have been waiting for is going to send a signal. Not necessarily the arrival of the thing itself, though that is possible, but a meaningful sign that the waiting is not in vain. A development that moves things forward. A piece of information that clarifies where things stand. A feeling clear and certain that what you hoped for is still on its way and has not been forgotten by the universe. For Pisces, these signals come most often through the language of feeling and intuition, rather than through obvious logical events. You may wake up one morning and feel a certainty that you cannot explain. You may have a dream that reassures you. You may encounter a phrase in a book or a song that speaks directly to what you have been waiting for. You may have a conversation with someone that, on the surface, has nothing to do with your hope, but something in it lands in exactly the right place in your heart. Trust the signals when they come. Do not dismiss them as wishful thinking. Pisces is a sign that is genuinely connected to the invisible intelligence of life. And when that intelligence is communicating with you, it speaks in the language of resonance and recognition. When something feels meaningful, it is meaningful. Let the sign this week restore a little of the faith you have been working hard to maintain. It was worth the waiting. It is still worth it. Shift 10. Your sense of purpose will deepen. Pisces carries within them a deep desire to be of service. Not in the exhausting sense of endless self-sacrifice, but in the truer, more beautiful sense of contributing something that matters, of being a presence in the world that makes things better, of using your gifts, your sensitivity, your compassion, your imagination, in the service of something larger than yourself. This desire is at the core of who you are. And when it is fulfilled, even in small ways, you feel a satisfaction that nothing else can provide. Over the next 7 days, your sense of purpose is going to deepen and clarify. You may have a conversation that opens your eyes to the impact you have had on someone without realizing it. You may encounter a situation where your particular gifts are exactly what is needed, and the experience of meeting that need leaves you feeling more useful, more real, more connected to your reason for being here. You may receive a piece of feedback or a moment of recognition that affirms what you have to offer. This deepening of purpose is not accidental. It is the universe preparing you for the next level of contribution that is available to you. You are not meant to spend your gifts on people and situations that do not value them. You are not meant to pour your compassion into contexts where it is taken for granted. You are meant to find the places where what you have to give is genuinely needed and genuinely received. And over the next 7 days, you are going to see a glimpse of what that can look like. Let this vision of purposeful contribution grow inside you. Let it become a North Star. Because when Pisces knows their purpose and begins living it fully, the magnetism that they carry becomes extraordinary. The right people, the right opportunities, the right experiences begin to find their way to you. Not because you chased them, but because you aligned with what you were always meant to give. That alignment is beginning now. Shift 11. You will feel, perhaps for the first time in a long time, like yourself again. Through all the seasons of giving and adapting and absorbing and accommodating, many Pisces have lost touch with something essential. The feeling of being fully, uncomplicatedly yourself. Not yourself in relation to someone else. Not yourself as filtered through the lens of someone else's expectations or needs. Just yourself. The version of you that existed before you learned how much effort it takes to fit into a world that often does not know what to do with someone as deep and as sensitive and as beautifully unusual as you are. Over the next 7 days, that feeling is going to come back. Not in one grand moment of revelation, but in small, quiet, unmistakable instants. A moment when you say something true and feel no need to immediately soften it. A moment when you choose something purely because you want it without calculating how it will be received. A moment when you look in a mirror or sit with your own company and feel simply at home. At home in yourself, in your own skin, in your own story. This feeling of returning to yourself is the most important shift of all 11. Because everything else that is possible for you, the relationships, the creativity, the purpose, the healing, the love, all of it flows from this one foundation, being at home in who you are. When you are at home in yourself, you make better choices. You attract better people. You create better work. You find more peace in ordinary moments. You stop looking outside yourself for the validation that you were always capable of giving yourself. Pisces, you are a sign of extraordinary depth and extraordinary beauty. Over the next 7 days, you are going to begin to feel that truth in your bones in a way that is quiet but permanent. Not because someone else tells you so, though that may happen too, but because you will simply feel it. Clear and simple and certain. Like coming home after a very long journey. Welcome back to yourself. This is where everything begins. If this message resonated with your sign, trust that it is not a coincidence. When the universe wants to speak to you, it always sends exactly the right signal. And you are here because you needed to hear this today. Your support as a subscriber or as a member of this community is what keeps these messages alive. They are the messages that touch, awaken, and transform. If this video made sense to you, leave in the comments the day you were born. Pisces, 7 days is not a long time. And yet some of the most important things that have ever happened in human lives have happened in a single conversation, a single moment of clarity, a single decision made in the quiet space between one breath and the next. 7 days is enough time for things to shift if you are paying attention. If you are willing to be honest about what you are feeling and what you are seeing. If you are open to receiving what is trying to reach you rather than deflecting it because it asks you to change. These 11 shifts are already in motion. They are not predictions in the fortune-telling sense. They are descriptions of an energy that is moving through your life right now. An energy that is working in your favor, even when it feels uncomfortable. The heaviness lifting, the clarity arriving, the relationships revealing themselves, the patterns beginning to break down, the creative reconnection, the financial awakening. The urge to make things real, the boundaries becoming clear, the signal arriving from what you have been waiting for, the purpose deepening, and finally, yourself returning to yourself. All of it is one coherent story. All of it is pointing in the same direction. The direction it is pointing is toward a life that is more honestly yours. A life that you have not been settling for but choosing. A life where your sensitivity is not a liability but a superpower. Where your empathy is not exploited but honored. Where your imagination is not a distraction from reality, but the source of your most important contributions to it. That life is not far away. It is not waiting for a dramatic external event to make it possible. It is waiting for you to stop waiting for permission and start living it. Over the next 7 days, that is your practice. Not a complicated one. Just attention, honesty, and a willingness to feel what you actually feel and choose what you actually want. The shifts will do the rest. The water is already moving, Pisces. Trust it. You know how to swim.